Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. In a few moments, you're going to hear my couple breakdown for Nancy and Bartise from Season 3's Love is Blind. And just like with yesterday's video, in this video, I'll give my honest thoughts on the couple, as well as whether I agree with their decision on the wedding day, and how I felt about their appearance on the reunion. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. Now in my first video for the series, I made it pretty clear that out of all the women that were engaged for the season, Nancy was the most appealing to me, and this was strictly from the personality standpoint. It also didn't hurt that Nancy was physically attractive as well. And I firmly believe that when Bartise met Nancy in those pod dates, he completely fell in love with her personality and what she could possibly bring to his life as a wife. But the issue at hand was that Bartise failed to be honest with himself when it came to this process. In my opinion, Bartise knew that somebody like Raven would be his first choice, and it would take a very special woman to convince him otherwise. After all, Raven and Bartise both admitted to one another that they value fitness and good looks over everything else. But when Raven and Bartise parted ways, I believe that Bartise was looking to get over the hurt of being rejected, and Nancy filled that void. I think that Nancy in turn loved the energy that Bartise brought to the pod, and she loved all the wonderful things that he was saying. In my opinion, Nancy was somebody who was perfect for a show like this, because she tends to love hard and she was ready for the process. Unfortunately, in Nancy's quest to find a husband, she ignored her intuition when it came to learning about Bartise's age. I think if Bartise would have been at least 6 or 7 years older, then he would have had the maturity needed to appreciate somebody like Nancy. But then they get engaged, and there were a number of awkward moments when they first met face to face. But I truly believe that there was a mutual level of attraction between the two of them. It wasn't until Nancy and Bartise meet the other cast members that Bartise starts to have buyer's remorse, which I really don't understand. Now I get it. From a shallow perspective, Raven has an amazing body, which is arguably the best physique out of all the women that were engaged on the show. But Nancy was not ugly by any means. I personally know a number of guys that would rate Nancy an 8 or above on a scale of 1 to 10. But sadly, Bartise saw Raven, and not only did he try to press up on her, but he told Nancy how seeing Raven made him feel, which was a huge slip up for Bartise. For one, no woman that is in a relationship wants to hear her man tell her how another woman makes him feel, as well as how physically attracted he is to that other woman. And two, being that Bartise and Nancy consummated their relationship on the first night, Bartise showing Nancy that he was having second thoughts about proposing to her was pretty foul. I think that at this point in the journey, Nancy should have called it quits, took her losses, and moved on. But Bartise still refused to be honest with himself by continuing to believe that he saw a future with Nancy. Now later on in the season, there's a huge back and forth between Nancy and Bartise about her stance when it came to abortion. But in my opinion, Bartise was simply looking for an out, and Nancy's feelings on abortion gave him what he felt was justification for not wanting to marry Nancy. I had to question what Bartise's response may have been if he was engaged to Raven and she shared the same views on abortion. Once again, when Nancy knew how Bartise and his family felt about her stance on abortion, she should have cut her losses right then and there and moved on. But Nancy didn't, because her goal was to be an amazing wife who could work through any rough patch in a relationship. I think that's admirable, but in my opinion, Nancy also needs somebody who is willing to at least meet her halfway, and I don't think Bartise ever showed those qualities. I think it's worth mentioning that Nancy was willing to share her money and her business with Bartise if he married her, which was something unheard of from where I come from. I mean, think about it. Bartise would have had a beautiful woman with an amazing personality and one who didn't expect her man to support her financially, and he was willing to give all that up because she didn't look like Raven. The uncomfortable truth is that Bartise had no business being on the show. He met with Nancy's family, promised Nancy and her family that he wouldn't throw them any curveballs, and he threw the biggest curveball at the worst possible time, which was the wedding day. And at their wedding, I pretty much felt bad for everybody except Bartise. He claims that he didn't make his decision until he stood there at the altar, but I strongly believe that he was lying about that. The signs were there the entire season, and even if they had gotten married, I don't think they would have lasted long, and this would have been because of Bartise's lack of maturity. Now at the reunion, Nancy had no love or respect for Bartise, and I really can't blame her for how she felt. The experience was embarrassing for her and her family, and Bartise didn't really show any remorse for his words and actions. But I have faith that Nancy will find the guy that will treat her the right way, and one that will fully appreciate what she has to offer. I'm sure that Bartise will meet several beautiful women in the future, but I'm sure that he will regret passing up Nancy. But that's just my opinion. And this marks the end of my video. If you have any comments about my breakdown or this couple, feel free to leave them below in the comment section, and I'll reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.